Matt, something happened?
All right, looks like we lost Matt. I don't see Matt on anymore.
Aaron, you are muted.
Our chalice lighting words this morning. May this flame, symbol of transformation since time began, fire our curiosity, strengthen our wills, and sustain our courage as we seek what is good within and around us.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's very much my pleasure to be with you here today. I was so honored and delighted when Reverend Aaron Payson gave me a call earlier this week and asked if I could join you on Zoom today. And I'm broadcasting remotely, not from my home studio, but I'm delighted to share in Sunday worship with the congregation in Worcester. Many of you may know that the reason that I took up singing and preaching in Unitarian churches was because of Reverend Aaron Payson and because of Matthew Johnson. They invited me to come sing one Sunday morning. It was Martin Luther King weekend 19 years ago. And when I finished that service, Aaron said, "I want you back here next year, but next time you deliver the sermon." I said, "Oh, no, you got the wrong guy." He said, "Nope, I got the right guy. We're going to do this." And that was my invitation into digging deeper into my own faith journey and into my relationship with Unitarian Universalism. And so this congregation holds a very special place in my heart as, in some ways, marking the true beginning of my journey within our congregations. So it's always a pleasure to be back, and thank you for having me. This is a song written in 1948, the words by Woody Guthrie, the music in 1959 by Marty Hoffman. It's called Deportees.
The crops are all in, the peaches are rotting, the oranges are stacked in their creosote gums. They're flying you back to the Mexico border to pay all your money to wait back again. My father's own father, he waded that river. They took all the money that he made in his life. My brothers and sisters, they worked in the fruit trees. They rode the big trucks till they took down and died. Goodbye to my Juan, goodbye Rosalita, adios, mis amigos, Jesus y Maria. You won't have a name when you ride the big airplane, for all they will call you will be deportees. Some of us are illegal and others not wanted. The work season ends and we have to move on. 600 miles to the Mexico border. They chase us like outlaws, like rustlers and thieves. We've died in your hills and we've died in your deserts. We've died in your valleys, we've died in your plains. We've died in your trees and we've died in your bushes. Both sides of the river, we've died just the same. Goodbye to my Juan, goodbye Rosalita, adios, mis amigos, Jesus y Maria. You won't have a name when you ride the big airplane, for all they will call you will be deportee. A sky plane caught fire over Los Gatos Canyon. Like a fireball of lightning, it shook all our hills. Who are these friends all scattered like dried leaves? The radio says they are just deportees. Is this the best way we can grow your big orchards? Is this the best way we can grow your good fruit? To fall like dried leaves and rot on your topsoil, to be known by no name except deportees. Goodbye to my Juan, goodbye Rosalita, adios, mis amigos, Jesus y Maria. You won't have a name when you ride the big airplane, for all they will call you will be deportees. Goodbye to my Juan, goodbye Rosalita, adios, mis amigos, Jesus y Maria. You won't have a name when you ride the big airplane, for all they will call you will be deportees. Yes, all they will call you will be deportees.
Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Worcester's online Sunday morning worship service. We're glad that you've joined us virtually this morning. It's an act of love that we gather this way once again during this time of pandemic response. We hope that this service gives you an opportunity to pause for a few minutes to gather in community so that we might care for each other, take a moment to reflect on our own well-being, discover opportunities for spiritual refreshment and service in the wider world, even as we are part of we are at a personal distance. We gathered this way this morning in solidarity with those families in our community who have been exposed or diagnosed with COVID-19 in recent days. The health and safety team met this week and assessed plans for the coming weeks and is recommending that UUCW go online only for worship and religious exploration during the month of January. So that we might come to know you better as you are able, please list your name on your video feed. Please note that this service is being live streamed on Facebook and is being recorded for future availability on the church YouTube channel, as well as our website worship archive. Following the service this morning, you are invited to join us for virtual fellowship hour. Once again, welcome and thank you for joining us this morning. Our opening words this morning are by Arlen Goff. Thresholds. We cross them every day, from room to room, from outside to inside and back again, from here to there, from anywhere and everywhere, from age to age. Each threshold offers an opportunity for change, for renewal, for transformation, from what we were and what we are to what we can be. In this hour and in this place, we cross a threshold from our day-to-day everydayness into space and time attuned to the other, to the sacred, to the holy, into the awareness of new life pregnant with possibilities. How will we be renewed by this moment? How will we be changed by this hour? How will we be transformed through this gathering of beloved community? Come, you longing, thirsty souls. Come, let us worship together. Our opening hymn this morning, We Are, number 1051 from Singing the Journey.
For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreams. We are the breath of our ancestors. who we are. For each child that's born, the morning star rises and sings to the universe. Who we are one.
I was looking to see if Robin was on with us this morning, but she's probably still on with our children. The religious exploration moment this morning is
I can talk, Aaron.
I'm sorry?
This is Claire. I can say something.
Oh, excellent. Thank you, Claire.
You're welcome. Hi, everybody. So we had our religious exploration meeting this morning on Zoom at 9. We had 3 families join us. This month, our RE is following the UU-wide theme of renewal. And we talked about how we want to take care of ourselves in this new year. And specifically, we talked about meditation. We read Wendy O'Leary's book, Breathing Makes It Better. And we did a little breathing meditation visualization together, and we talked how we use it in our own lives and what a handy tool our breath is to have with us at all times. And serendipitously, Robin got a call from Wendy O'Leary this week about her new book, The Monster Parade. It's a book about identifying feelings. And Wendy said that she will be coming to the UU sometime soon to introduce her new book to us.
That's
And
wonderful.
that's it. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Claire.
You're welcome. Thanks, everybody.
In addition, you heard Claire say they're meeting online. Just a short update. The Religious Exploration Program and Sunday morning worship for the month of January will be held online only. Our health and safety team met this week and was concerned given the rate of COVID-19 spread, especially with the Omicron variant in our own community, and determined that it was safest for us to move online for a period of time in order for that surge to diminish. We're not framing this as a return. We're framing this as a pause and an opportunity for us to be able to continue to gather in order that we might provide an opportunity for care and support for each other. So I hope that you'll join us online during the month of January. And if you have any concerns, you're welcome to reach out to me at minister@uucworcester.org or to give me a call. And I hope that we'll see you in this space, but also that we'll be returning to in-person and multi-platform services very, very soon. We are delighted this morning to have with us Nicole Bell, who is founder and CEO of Worcester's own Living in Freedom Together, LIFT, an organization that we have as a congregation supported in the past and will again with a special 50-50 collection in March. But this month, we are honoring not only the Touchstone Ministry theme of renewal, we are also honoring this month as the National Human Trafficking Prevention Month. And asked Nicole if she would come and share with us for a few minutes about her journey and work here in Worcester. Nicole, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Aaron, and thank you all for giving me this opportunity to speak with everybody this morning. So as Aaron mentioned, my name is Nikki Bell. I am the founder and chief executive officer of a nonprofit organization here in Worcester. And our mission is to actually end prostitution and provide high quality exit programs to those being exploited and victimized in the sex trade. I myself am a survivor of many forms of gender-based violence, including intimate partner violence, commercial sexual exploitation, sex trafficking, and prostitution. And so as I sit here today and I'm listening to everybody talk about renewal and that link to Human Trafficking Awareness Month, and Prevention Month, you know, I think about, I was encountering were those that were paying to access my body. And so I had kind of not only lost faith in God, but lost faith in humankind, and didn't see really any kindness or hope out there. And so 8 years ago, I again was released from incarceration because again, I was punished for the violence I was experiencing. And, you know, decided this time that, you know, I couldn't go back, because if I went back, I was either going to kill myself or kill somebody else. And so I worked really hard to finally get treatment for the illnesses I had, including substance use disorder, to treat my mental health, to access housing. The difficult part was I was released again with nowhere to go, literally to the same street corner that I had been arrested on, with no resources of support, because at that time, those resources and support didn't exist for individuals like myself. Fortunately, I was able to connect with other survivors and other survivors of sex trafficking and prostitution. And we formed a support group, which is how Lift initially started. And, you know, it literally was to support me, if I'm honest. And I began to have access to an affinity space where people understood what I was going through and could help me on my own journey. And I found my pathway out of the life through social justice work, actually. Finally, you know, there was a lot of work going on in the city of Worcester to address the issue of commercial sexual exploitation and trafficking. And I found myself at, you know, tables with different city officials very early on in my exit pathway. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I had my voice had value, and I had something to offer this world outside of access to my body. And so I continued to show up at those tables. You know, fortunately, many people in this community view me as a bit of an agitator, but that's okay, because I will continue to speak out until all women like myself and individuals like myself actually have access to the support and resources that they need in order to exit the life. You know, I continued from the drop-in center. I actually partnered with the faith-based organization, and they allowed me to use their church for just a couple hours a week. And we began our first drop-in center, which literally started with a pot of coffee, the clothes out of my closet, and the waiting area of a church in a high corridor of prostitution. It was the Woo Church at the time. And we just started going out and inviting prostituted women in, giving them access to safe space, clean clothes. And then, you know, as time evolved, we started bringing different community partners in, you know, people from domestic violence organizations, sexual assault organizations, bringing access to HIV testing and healthcare right on site for individuals. So they began to develop relationships and know a friendly face in these organizations that they needed in order to exit the life. I will flash forward a few years. Lift became a nonprofit. We worked with the city and the Worcester Alliance Against Sexual Exploitation to do a comprehensive needs assessment in the city. And we recognized that prostituted women and women that had been sex trafficked with substance use disorder and mental health needed a place to go. And so we worked with our local legislators, Senator Chandler being a real champion for us, and the local family foundation, the Hafty Foundation, and we were able to purchase and renovate a 3-family home, secure a contract from the Bureau of Substance Addiction Services, and open the first survivor-led, and regardless if it's survivor-led, at this moment, Jana's Place is the first program of its kind in the country to address the intersection of substance use, mental health, and commercial sexual exploitation. It's a 16-bed residential program right here in Worcester. And so Lift has continued to grow. And we are seeing our sisters or brothers and individuals that are being exploited in the sex trade fall through the cracks. We are designing programs for them. And so in the midst of COVID, We started our TIME program, which is Transitional Youth Mentoring and Exiting Program. It's a mentoring program for youth that have been impacted by commercial sexual exploitation and victimized in that way, and who are at risk for. So we have a really amazing youth center. It's a community center, actually, that anybody can access and use. We're looking at the Cambridge Women's Center model, where our community comes in and shares their skills and gifts and resources with the community at Lyft. And so we were able to start our TIME program. And also, in the midst of COVID, we opened a temporary emergency shelter for women experiencing homelessness that were either being exploited or at risk for exploitation. And that model of care that we were able to provide there, which I just want to acknowledge, it was the survivors that were there showing up every day, making sure people had access to safety, making sure they had access to mental health treatment, making sure they were working to access next steps. And this team of survivors, in the midst of a global health pandemic, with very limited guidance from anybody around the health, the health consequences, or how we protect ourselves, showed up and with other women serving organizations like the YWCA and Abby's House and Open Sky and many others. There was a bunch of organizations that came together, but it was Lyft that actually opened that shelter, and it was survivors that continued to show up for their sisters in a really critical time. We were initially supposed to open for 30 days. We stayed open for 90, and we were able to find placement for every woman that was in that shelter, whether that be long-term permanent supported housing, their next step in substance use treatment, adult foster care. It was all dependent on the individual self-determined next steps. And so due to the success of that model, we worked with the city to permanently open a 15-bed zero barrier access shelter for women experiencing exploitation. And so we have both TIME and Harbor so Harbor stands for Healthcare Advocacy Room Board Outreach and Rehousing, and that is our zero barrier access shelter, but it's all in the same building. So we have our youth center, our shelter for exploited women, and our advocacy center there. And we are working very soon, we'll be opening our own mental health clinic to serve prostituted women. So, I just want to say, I started out pretty hopeless, and, I used to, on one hand, talk about not having any faith in God and saying he didn't exist. And then on the other hand, saying, that I hated him. And one day somebody said to me, well, Nikki, fundamentally, if you hate him, there is some belief that he exists, right? And they were right. And I had gotten away from, just because of all of the violence I had experienced, and any belief in hope and humanity and God, and thankfully, due to finally being accepted by my community and building a community for myself, I've been able to reconnect with that part of myself and my journey as well. And that's one of the things that I think is pretty amazing about Lyft is we support people in whatever their exit path may be, whether that be through spirituality, through substance use treatment and meetings, through medication, through social justice work. We think everybody's journey is individualized, and we believe everybody should have access to the basic human rights and dignity, and not have to sell access to their body so they can buy a sandwich. And so by us providing those things for people, it allows them to get their feet underneath them and start to have hopes and dreams again, and allows us to work with them to keep reaching for those hopes and dreams. So thank you for having me here today. I am going to, we are a nonprofit organization and are constantly evolving and, have different needs. So I am actually going to, in the chat, just put our link to donate if people so feel inclined. And, you know, during Human Trafficking Prevention Awareness Month, we had intended to do our first survivor-led art exhibit at the JMAC. And we had to cancel that, unfortunately, due to COVID, but we will be rescheduling that. And, you know, LIFT does this work throughout the year, not just in January. And I'm thankful that it gets some attention every January, but I just hope that people understand that this is an issue that is happening in our community every day, every night. It doesn't stop. And we have to think about new ways to reach this population of people that have been ignored and marginalized and even villainized and criminalized. And so, you know, I can tell you for myself, it wasn't a choice that I was actively making. It wasn't something that I wanted to do. And when we asked the people that we're working with, you know, if they want to exit, it's like 96% of them would exit now if they had the resources and support to do so, right? So we need to start providing those resources and support. And part of a critical component of both recovery and exiting prostitution is feeling connected to community and having supports within your own community. And so building community is a really important part of the work that we do every day. So again, I thank you for having me here and Aaron allowing me to be here today.
It is our honor and pleasure to have you here, Nicole. One of the things you and I talked about this week is that because of COVID, you've had some staffing issues. And one of the things that we as a congregation could do immediately to support you is by providing evening meals that could be delivered to the house and could be distributed by the folks that are there. Wouldn't require us to be present for that portion of it, but a meal for 14 to 16 people. There are apparently no allergies or major dislikes that we've noted at this time. Payson household is going to be talking about bringing homemade New England clam chowder, bread, and salad this week. But if there are others that are interested in doing that work, you can contact me or put your desire in the chat or send it to me as a private message or direct message in the chat. And we'll make certain that we support you as best we can with that. And of course, in March, we'll have you or someone from Lift back to share with us for a moment as a part of our ongoing 50-50 collection process as well. So awesome. Nikki Nikki is one of my heroes, and I'm so honored that she was able to be with us today in order for us to honor this very important topic in this important month that needs to be remembered all year long. So thank you once again.
Thank you.
We come to this time in our service when we're given an opportunity to share that which is symbolic of our own efforts, of our own energies, that which helps to provide what's necessary for our own living and for those that we care for and our families and also our community at large. And so we take up an offering each time that we come together in this way in order to sustain the ministry and mission of this congregation. You are invited this morning to participate in our offering by texting 508-231-5335 or by visiting uucworcester.org /donate. At this time, the morning offering will be received. We come to that time in our service when we're given pause to consider what is deepest in our hearts or most profoundly on our minds or in the work of our hands. In the days that have transpired or in the prospect of days to come, joys and sorrows that touch us deeply and are given another measure of meaning because of our capacity to share them in the midst of a company that claims us as a co-journeyer. So I invite those of you who have joys or sorrows this day to either raise your virtual hand or open your microphone so that I may call on you in turn. If you are coming to us from Facebook, you can also place that joy or sorrow in the chat there, or if you desire to place it in the chat here on Zoom, you're welcome to do that as well. Are there joys or sorrows to be shared this day?
Sue Crossley.
Sue Crosley.
Oh, I just wanted to let everybody know that when we start coming back together again, I will be available for autographs. Because of my front page status and Rachel Maddow exposure. That's it.
That's
was very
great.
exciting. It was very
Thank you
exciting.
so much.
That's it.
It was wonderful to see you on the front page of the newspaper this morning. And I am looking forward to seeing you there many times in the future, all of the activism that goes on.
Yeah.
So congratulations. Are there other joys or sorrows to be shared this day?
Me, Aaron.
Yes, Bruce.
So Cheryl's watching on Facebook, which maybe makes this a little harder, but she's at the nursing home today, sitting with her mom. And her mom is going to pass sometime soon. And it's a tough day because it's also Cheryl's birthday today. And it's, you know, you got your pluses and your minuses, but just keep her in your thoughts and prayers. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Much love to Cheryl. Much love to her mother during this very precious and poignant time. Laura Lenihan writes, my joy today is that Ahmaud Arbery getting his justice. My sorrow is that we lost our grandmother this weekend, Louise Lenihan. She spent her career as a dispatcher at the Worcester Police Department. Mara Large.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want people to know that the Martin Luther King Community Breakfast is happening this year. They said part of it is in person, but I would recommend online. Search Quinsigamond Community College, Martin Luther King Jr., and the the registration page will come up. It's a week from tomorrow in the morning. Hope to see you there.
We will hope to have that in the newsletter this week as well, Mara.
Thank you.
Other joys or sorrows today? Let us be in the spirit of prayer and meditation. Holy One, that which is the source of our inner and outermost being, deep and abiding love. We ask that you surround our friend and minister Cheryl Lachey this morning with all manner of love and her mother as she honors transitions, mindful that this is holy work that we do and that we surround her as her community with care, as we do her family who cares for her. Mindful also this day of those in our lives who have passed, for Louise, for the opportunity to witness justice as it is made manifest in our world in so many important ways, Thankful this day for the vision of justice and wholeness that's given to us by Nikki Bell and those who have helped to make living in freedom together a reality in our community. Thankful for the reminder that justice is not just witnessed and spoken, but it is also sung. For the talent and for the ministry of Jencks. Help us be mindful this day of all of those who continue to seek health and wholeness in our community, who have been burdened with dis-ease and whose lives require deeper connection, so that we all might witness the potential that we have as a community to embrace all of our people. Let us commit ourselves this day to continuing that journey together. And let us be mindful this day of all that which has gone unsaid, but is no less real and important. For that which is true, holy, real, right, and good, we give great and abiding thanks. Amen, and blessed be. Friends, once again, Jencks.
You and I were walking down the street. I heard you talk your line. You said, look at the rich chick, look at the fat chick. Hey, don't that hippie chick look fine? What is it in your background that makes you think that it's okay to talk about a woman that you see in such a ruthless way? She's somebody's mother, she's somebody's daughter, somebody's lover. She's somebody's sister, and I'm saying, mister, what kind of brother are you? What kind of brother? I know I haven't mentioned this before. I guess I was afraid to tell you how deeply offended I was at the comments that you made. I know that you think everything's a joke, even after all these years. But if you take the time to look behind that pretty smile, you would see the tears. She's somebody's mother, she's somebody's daughter, somebody's lover. She's somebody's sister, and I'm saying, mister, what kind of brother are you? What kind of brother? No, I don't think I'm perfect, and I'm not throwing stones your way, but I can't ignore what you say anymore, so my silence stops today. I know that you're a good man, so think about what you say and do. That could be your mother, sister, or lover being hurt by a good man like you. She's somebody's mother, she's somebody's daughter, somebody's lover. She's somebody's sister, and I'm saying, mister, what kind of brother are you? What kind of brother? And she is your mother, she is your daughter, she is your lover. And she is your sister, so tell me, hey mister, what kind of brother are you? What kind of brother? Tell me now, what kind of brother? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And many, many thanks to Nicole Bell for that amazing testimonial and for educating all of us this morning.
I was in 7th grade, sitting in the auditorium of our junior high school for an all-school assembly. 7th grade is that period of time when note passing was all the rage. Unexpectedly, the girl sitting beside me handed me a note which had been passed down the aisle. I opened it, shielding the contents from other prying eyes, and read to my surprise and angst, "Let me know if you want to have a good time. Polly." I did a side glance down the row and found the author of the message shyly covering her eyes, and then glancing my way and smiling, who had also never been propositioned before. I wondered if her friends had put her up to it. Wondered what she meant by good time. I folded the note back up and I put it in my pocket. As I left the auditorium, I slipped the note into the garbage can on the way out. I was embarrassed and I didn't know what to do with the gesture. I said nothing to anybody. Many years later, I remembered that exchange. As I sat with a woman who had entered the winter shelter I was helping staff, she had been kicked out of another shelter in town because she was too unruly. She hadn't slept for days. She was ice cold and had been wandering the streets for hours. So we spoke. Words that had accentuated worship for me many times came. We feed our eyes upon the mystery and revelation in the faces of our brothers and sisters. Seek to know the wistfulness of the very young and the very old, the wistfulness of people in all times. We seek to understand the shyness behind arrogance, the fear behind pride, the tenderness behind clumsy strength, the anguish behind cruelty. And another, we bid you welcome, who come with weary spirit seeking rest, who come with troubles that are too much for you, who come hurt and afraid. In that moment, I wondered whatever happened to Polly. I had ignored the note, not said anything to anybody. I had been too immature and afraid to ask why she sent it to me. I had been too ignorant to speak up to anyone else in my life who might have offered me the perspective that that note meant something much more than what it said. Furthermore, I had understood then, had I understood then what I know now, I might have inquired about how she came to understand this way of talking to boys. I felt guilty in that moment that I hadn't had enough experience or courage to step toward my own discomfort in order to ask if Polly was okay. I worried that she had been the victim of exploitation. How else could I explain that a girl in 7th grade knew what it meant to have a good time? Though I wasn't certain. The woman sitting in front of me told me stories about her survival on the streets. Sex for food, sex for shelter, for drugs, the dangers of falling asleep. She hadn't showered in a week and she hadn't eaten in a day or two. No gloves, her feet were soaked, and she had a cold that wouldn't go away. I listened, and I had learned that this wasn't the moment to offer suggestions about ways of responding to her needs, but to ask what in this moment she needed. I need sleep, she said. That I could help with. How about a cot in a quiet corner in a room for only women, with one of our staff monitoring? You'd be able to sleep then, wouldn't you? Maybe, she responded. That's a start. We went there to find her rest. The United Nations defines human trafficking as the recruitment, transportation, transfer, harboring, or receipt of persons by means of the threat or use of force or other forms of coercion, of abduction, of fraud, of deception, of the abuse of power or a position of vulnerability, or of the giving or receiving of payments of benefits to achieve the consent of a person having control over another person for the purpose of exploitation. The importance here is the non-consensual nature of trafficking, which distinguishes it from other forms of migration and movement in communities. To address the issue of human trafficking in all its lurid forms requires effective strategies of prevention and intervention which treats those who have been trafficked with compassion and holds those who would traffic in human beings accountable for their actions. We've long passed the era when punishing the victims of the human sex trade or forced labor as a means of deterrent. For those of us who have not been subject to this kind of poverty and the pressures that lead people into these circumstances, it's hard to fathom that the punishment merited is still often better than the life one is forced to return to in the end. What is required is the development of trauma-informed ways of treating those who have been exploited, which means learning to listen and respond beyond the words and behaviors that might otherwise cause us to dismiss people as unreachable or unhelpable. It means giving survivors of trafficking a key role in the developing of systems of response and justice, helping empower those formerly exploited to be our experts in response. I think about the role that survivors of human trafficking play in the work that Living in Freedom does together as a primary example of this principle in action. And faith communities are positioned to do this work in partnership with community advocates like LIFT because of the very nature of religious community itself. The voluntary nature of our commitment to compassion, human relations, our commitment to ending poverty and human suffering in all its forms, and the understanding that in order for this to happen, those who have been most exploited must be at the center of any efforts to transform our communities, to speak the kind of role that religious community can play. Social change is not always driven by strong laws. What is required more for change is a paradigm shift away from the condemnation of behaviors of those who are trafficked or the stigmatization of the causes of trafficking itself. We need to work with groups like LIFT and other community advocates to shift the focus to recovery of those exploited and accountability of those who would be exploited, In addition, we must also concentrate on the root causes of other forms of trafficking. As one report on religion and human trafficking notes, the focus on demand, however, has begun to expand to the recognition that a collective demand for cheap goods drives a demand for low-wage labor. Legislation and executive orders focusing on supply chains, corporate responsibility for zero tolerance of human trafficking, and governmental accountability as consumers of goods and services all reflect a growing awareness of the collective responsibility for human trafficking and the eliminating its acceptability. This is a message articulated by religious figures. As Anglican bishops recently noted, every day we let this tragic situation continue is a grievous assault on our common humanity and a shameful affront to consciences of all people. Similarly, Pope Francis recently articulated, people of goodwill, whether or not they profess religious beliefs, must not allow women, men, and children to be treated as objects, to be deceived, raped, often sold or resold for various purposes, and in the end killed or left devastated in mind and body, only to be finally thrown away or abandoned. Through this notion of collective responsibility, religion can also be a force. I think of Polly and my friend at the shelter. For their sake and for so many others whose lives depend on the work of those who understand and have the willingness to speak truth to power, we must continue this work in earnest. We feed our eyes upon the mystery and revelation in the faces of our brothers and sisters. Or as the poet Emma Lazarus once wrote, give us your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. The wretched refuse of our teeming shore, send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed to me. I lift my lamp up beside the golden door. And in that light, we must learn to listen beyond words, relate beyond hard behaviors, companioning those who are most in need in our communities to a place of safety, health, wholeness, and life. Amen. And blessed be. May your life be as a song, number 1059 from Singing the Living Tradition.
May your life be as a song, resounding with the dawn, to sing awake the light and softly serenade the stars, ever dancing circles in the night. May your life be as a song, resounding with the dawn, to sing awake the light and sounding with the sound, to sing the stars, ever dancing circles in the night. The stars, ever dancing circles in the night. Resounding with the dawn, to sing the light, and sounding with the sound, to sing the stars, ever dancing circles in the night. The stars, ever dancing circles in the night.
Our benediction today are words of my colleague Tim Haley. We walk on this earth but a brief moment in time. Amid our suffering and pain, however great or small, let us continue to learn how to celebrate life. Let us continue to grow in our capacity to love ourselves and each other, and let us continue to move toward the goal of a just world community. Go this day in a renewed spirit of peace and hope, and with the wisdom to greet a new week.
Thank you so much for the privilege of being with you this morning. Always a joy to share in worship and community with all of you in Worcester and wherever we all happen to be this morning. And I look forward to a time when we can all be together. Thank you for this incredibly moving service. Thanks again to Nicole Bell for such extraordinary testimony and witness and education and heart. This is a song I wrote after a trip to Ellis Island, inspired by the poem that Aaron referenced by Emma Lazarus. The song is called Lady of the Harbor.
Far away in distant lands, the tempest tossed with hopeful hearts and calloused hands reach toward the light, the torch held high, and cast their gaze upon the lady of the harbor, and she welcomes them with open arms. She says, let my children here shine on, shine on, oh you lady of the harbor. So it was with my own kin. They sailed from Sweden and from France and Ireland. Their earthly cares packed in their bags, they cast their gaze upon the lady of the harbor, and she welcomed them with open arms. She said, let my children here shine on, shine on, oh you lady of the harbor. Now we're locking down the borders and we're filling up the jails, and we say they don't belong. How conveniently do we forget that we've all come to sing the same sweet song? Will the dream survive the strain? Will huddled masses have a chance to learn its sweet refrain? Or will we fall into our fears and turn our backs against the lady of the harbor? And she welcomes them with open arms. She says, let my children here shine on, shine on, oh you lady of the harbor. arms. She says that my children need. Shine on, shine on, oh you lady of the harbor. Shine on, shine on, oh you lady of the harbor. Oh you lady of the harbor.
Joe, thank you so much for joining us this morning. It is always a treat. And once again, beloved, worship in this space has come to an end, but our service continues next with an opportunity for conversation and fellowship. May yours be a wondrous and wonderful week. Thank you for joining us here this morning. I look forward to seeing you all soon, and I hope that you are well. Have you any needs, please do reach out to me or any member of the staff so that we might be able to serve you in the way of your own choosing. Take good care. I'm going to open up the